Nice, last one CT. Chill. Nice, last one CT.
I think this is another mini-map awareness moment.
Yeah.
Nice, last one CT.
In the middle of like the fights and that sort of thing. Because when Cypher shows up here, if you look at where your Omen is, he's obviously fighting, like jiggling and peeking, fighting behind that box there. So like there's a moment where your Omen runs back behind this, which means when your Omen runs back behind here, obviously there's no vision in this area, right? Which means that Cypher has the time to actually drop down without being seen. Like you would not see him on your map drop down, but with the info that you do have from your map, you know that because Omen's not watching this, and Cypher was just here, that he could very easily like be down in this area, which means that you wouldn't, if you were aware of that information, you wouldn't obviously peek with your util out, your ult out, right? So yeah, again, that's just like being, it's similar to the first death where it came from not being aware of your surroundings, like the information that you have access to on the minimap, that sort of thing.
Yeah. My awareness, or my thought process there, because I did see the Cypher there.
Yep.
I thought he would tuck further into the right side, and then drop down to avoid being like picking off me as the one. So that's how I thought I would get the ult there.
Yeah. That's the thing though. So like that is definitely a possibility. Like Cypher could have very well done that, but the thing is, like, because you can't be certain, you have to play as if this area here is still a potential threat. You know what I mean? Like, even though it is likely for him to tuck into the right or whatever, just if you have, if it's a possibility for him to drop down, no matter, you know, even if it's a small chance, even if you think, you know, he might not do it or whatever the case may be, you still have to play as if like this is a danger spot, right? Because it's still, even if you don't think he's going to do it, it's still a possibility, which means it's something that as an individual you have to take responsibility and be ready for, be prepared for, you know what I mean? And because also Cypher, like from his perspective, even you've probably done this in your own games, like in your own moments and that sort of thing, where you try and do something, especially when you're in a 2v1 scenario that you don't expect people to, you know, think that you're going to do. Like if Cypher's thinking, oh, you know, he won't expect me to drop down here, then obviously he might take the opportunity to do that, right, and just catch you off guard, which is what he did. But regardless, because and the other thing, like if you also put yourself in the perspective of Cypher up here, when you're because when Omen's holding this, right, he can't ever drop down, because if he drops down, he's just going to get caught like on the drop, right, like shot in the moment that he drops down from Omen. So if you're Cypher in this scenario, you can never drop down as long as Omen's actually holding the spot, right? But as soon as Omen backs off, unless Omen either dies or he backs off to here where he is, there's never a chance for you to drop down, right? Which means it's likely for Cypher to take the only opportunity that he can to actually drop down here to do that when Omen backs off. Do you kind of get what I mean? So it's like, see, like when they're fighting here, right? Cypher can never drop down now because Omen's just holding it. So when Cypher sees him back off, that's literally the only chance he's ever going to get to come down into this area, right? Which means he's probably going to do that when Omen stops watching it, you know, because this is not an advantageous position for Cypher to be fighting in. So like when he does run off here, he's like, okay, this area is no longer being watched. This is my small window of time where I can actually drop down here, which is what he's taken, right? And that's something that you as the player on site have to be aware of, right? Which angles are my teammates covering, you know, like where can the Cypher potentially be and get to based on where my Omen's holding, right? And based on Omen being behind this wall, now, like I said, this whole area is like a potential threat to where Cypher could be because you no longer have vision. You get what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so then, like, with that information, like obviously Omen gets a trade, which is good, like, that's a fine play, but, like, it was still an unnecessary death, like, it's not something that, you know, had to be done. Obviously, Omen swinging off you and getting the trade is good, however, just because the result is good doesn't mean that it was always the most correct play or the most optimal play that you could have made, you know what I mean? Like, this death could have been avoided, and you could have just drawn him out longer and, you know, played off contact longer and that sort of thing, but Omen did a good job trading, so like the play in itself is not the worst thing you could have done, it's just something that could have been avoided and done better, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nice.
at this point here, I think when you kill the Cypher, this is where you should take an opportunity to back, like right in this, like the small window here. As soon as you kill that Cypher, you'd be expecting a swing from either up here, from top, or from this. Wait, you can see my cursor, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so like either of these two areas are probably going to be swung into this area now, because obviously, as you know, whenever you get a pick or whenever you kill somebody, the enemies are always looking to instantly trade that, like as quickly as they possibly can. And they now also have information on where you were playing, right? It's like a similar concept, you know, when people are opping and defending a site and they get a pick with the op and then they change their spot so that they don't know exactly where the op's playing. And it's the same concept here. So like as soon as you kill the Cypher, what you want to be doing is taking the pick, because that's a good one for 0. That's a good pick that you got. And then right here, you want to sort of move back behind this right area while you're pre-aiming up here, right? Because obviously your Cypher and Jet are covering main, which means it's fine for your back to be to main, but it's not fine for you to be in a spot where you can be swung from either up top here or from the stairs. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you take the pick and then you get out, like you take the 1 for 0. You don't allow them to get the trade, right? Because even when they do kill you, they kill you in pretty much the same spot that you're holding, right? So they knew that you were playing here and they took that opportunity to swing this area, right? And they actually did misplay with the Gecko util. There's actually a misplay because you can see they gave you like a few seconds, like this few seconds that they gave you would have allowed you to back off into this area and just be holding this, you know, or playing off your Cypher's cam, right, your Cypher's contact, all this sort of thing. So it's like you leave Gecko on the site and then you just stack in main here, play off the Cypher cam, maybe you pre-aim this area. You know, like when you play Deathmatch, for example, right, and whenever you get a kill in Deathmatch, you like turn around because you're like, oh, okay, someone's going to swing me from behind now or something like that. It's like the same thing here. It's like when you kill this guy, you should be immediately expecting someone to swing you from here, like even quicker than they actually did. Because, like I said, they're going to be looking for the trade based on the info that they have that you're here, right?
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, see when the jet peaks, so it's like, boom, and then immediately back and just looking up here. See? 1, 2, 3, like you had seconds. And you probably would have potentially been able to pick this jet off as well, because he kind of whiffed on you. Like when you kill the... When you kill this guy, it's like, if you back and you look here, you can probably kill this jet. See, he like even whiffs on you when you're not even looking at him. Like if you were behind this, you're not under threat from Gecko, and you can just 1v1 duel the jet, or you can, you know, bait him out, jiggle him, all that sort of thing.
Player standing. 1 enemy remaining.
Yeah. This is something that's mostly true for pretty much every post-plant scenario you take, you know. When you get a pick in a certain area, you want to try and reposition if you can, just so that... Because obviously, when you're retaking in this game, right, like one of the most dangerous... one of the things that makes retaking most dangerous in Valorant is obviously that they don't know, like, you know, exactly which angles the enemies are holding. So it's like they have to check everything, clear everything, that sort of thing. So if you can, you want to try and limit the retaker's information as much as you possibly can, you know. So like you get a pick, you reposition. Even if you're like shooting at someone, you can potentially take chances to reposition. Just try and focus on limiting the retaker's info as much as you can, you know.
There's full blind spamming, 2-2-2.
That's a mini-map awareness thing here, right? The
Yes.
The jet kill here, which you probably already observed. So like we see 2 here on the map as soon as you come up out of main. When your jet dashes out, obviously you see Clove and Jet, they're both out of the smoke, right? So like they're in this cutout area. So this is basically like it's really simple, but just being aware of the mini-map when you enter and take sites, when you're in the middle of fighting, entering, all that sort of thing, right? Because if you had been aware of your surroundings and the mini-map as you entered onto B site, you wouldn't have been caught off guard by these people standing in here, like when you peeked out with your util.
Yeah.
So like right here.
There's full blind spamming, 2-2-2.
Yeah, so like the peeking with the util out, obviously that just comes down to being aware. Do you have you found yourself, when it comes to minimap awareness, like is that something that you think you've struggled with? Like at all?
I find when I'm attacking sites, I typically rely on my teammates for callouts more so.
Yeah. So that's something that you obviously can't do, especially like particularly when it comes to solo queue and stuff like that. Like you always just have to, if you know, just limiting as many things that can go wrong as possible. You can't really rely on people to always call out where they're going to be, right? And also the other thing is that obviously they should be calling out like where people are, but if you put yourself in the perspective of like, say if you were playing Jet here, right? Like if you were Jet in this scenario and you're dashing out into sight and in the middle of fighting two people, you're not really in a position where you can hold down your mic button and necessarily say like, oh, you know, there's two cut out or whatever the case may be, right? Because he's in the middle of dueling, fighting with two people. So for the people that follow the duelist out onto site, you know, like the second and third and all that sort of thing, it's actually their job to be paying attention to the map and also like sound cues and just anything that's going on around them, you know what I mean? Because like I said, if you were Jet in this scenario, you're not really, you know, you're more concerned with entering onto the site and being in the middle of the duel with two people to actually be able to hold down your mic and say like, oh, you know, there's two here. So it's actually the job of the supporting agents to actually be paying attention to these sort of things as opposed to just relying on comms. So like he's here and he's just fighting two people. He's not going to, you know, be pressing his mic button and be like, oh, you know, two here, two here. This is on you guys to look at the map,
There's full blind spamming, 2-2-2.
Yeah, that's all that came down to though, so that's just something that you can take into future games is, try and like, and the same concept applies to sort of any scenario that you find yourself in this game. You want to kind of like limit the RNG as much as you possibly can, and like by RNG I mean, you know, like you can never be certain what your teammates are going to do, what they're going to say, you know, are their comms even going to be reliable, like, you know, like all that sort of thing. So it's important to, as an individual player, just specifically, you know, focus on as many things that you can as possible so that you don't actually have to rely on the other people, because your teammates aren't always going to be reliable, right? Like particularly when you play solo queue and that sort of thing.
Cypher. Cypher.
Yeah, you didn't check this. Yeah, see, this is something else. I actually went over this yesterday with somebody else. This happens quite a lot. Even like into Immortal, like all these ranks, this happens quite frequently when your duelists enter a site. So if you actually, obviously, when you look at the map, right, you can see what angles or what corners your duelist has checked, or like whoever's going in first has checked, and you have to treat everything as if it's like not cleared, you know, like unless you have evidence like on your own, like you yourself have seen evidence that a corner and angle is checked or cleared, you just have to treat it as if there could be somebody there, because like you get people doing, you know, like trigger discipline and all that sort of thing quite frequently, quite often. It's like if you ever notice that, say like your Jet has, because you can see his field of view, right, like what he's looking at.
Yeah.
If you ever get info that whoever's run out first hasn't checked the corner, you just have to treat it as if there's somebody there, you know.
Gotcha.
Because that's what got you killed here. It's like, it's a mini-map thing yet again, right? It's like, okay, he checked this, but this wasn't checked.
Cypher.
Okay.
So like what you'd be doing is obviously running out. So like if you were just to play this round again, right, like I would suggest that you obviously saw your Jet dash out, he was looking here and here, which means he wasn't this wasn't technically cleared. So like because you have this natural cover, you know Cypher's here, and because you have this natural cover from this area here, you can take that, you can use that and actually just swing out and check this left corner here, just because that, you know, you can see that your Jet hasn't actually checked it, he's just dashed out and made space, you know?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I get caught up by it again in another round.
Yeah. Most of these, honestly, like the frequent habit here is just taking advantage of the information you have access to on the minimap. That's like one of the main recurring things at the moment.
Get goal here, so be careful.
Like short of
Last player standing.
I kept asking them for a second there.
the only thing you can do in this scenario, like if you're Deadlock, is start walking into market here so that they don't expect to swing from, or they don't know that you're going to be swinging from here, because obviously they have Cypher that's watching it, right? But because you're running in this scenario, they know the last person's coming from market, which means they're now both going to be looking in this area. Like what you can do is, you're not going to be able to get, like, because of where Omen's standing and where their team is, you're not going to be able to sprint, like no matter how fast you run, even if you're playing Neon or something, you're not going to be able to get on site in time to prevent this Omen from dying. So what you can do in this scenario is just start walking. Like either you walk down market or you walk out of here, just so that they're not certain where you're actually coming from. You know what I mean? Like, you could be coming from multiple different angles if you walk down here. You don't give them that information. But because you run down here, obviously the gecko here, the jet that was here, like, they've heard you run down here, so now they're both going to be focusing on this area, which then puts you into a 2v1 scenario where you're just going to be peeking into two people with a classic.
There's one more.
So, like, you run this whole way, so they know you're here now. See?
Main and pocket.
And then because they know you're here, it's also very risky for you to peek with the net out, like with the util. Yeah, and they're just expecting you to be here.
Okay.
There are
I was
nets.
just trying to swing off of the Omen, but you didn't buy me enough time, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's like I said though, like, because of where Omen actually is. If we go back, like, to this, like, because he's stuck here. If he starts running, he's just gonna get shot in the back anyway. Like, there's no way he's gonna... Like, he's either gonna pop off and do something crazy, or he's just gonna die. Like, nothing that you can do in this scenario, like I said, no matter how fast you go, is ever gonna be able to help this Omen on site, you know?
Gotcha.
Like, because he's right in dead center of this, and there's one here, one here, one here. So it's like I said, even if he turns, he's just gonna get shot in the back. Like, in the 2v2 situation right here, like, he's just fully isolated, like, he can't get out.
Main and pocket.
So the only thing you can do is, like I said, you can cut noise and try and, like, take advantage of the fact they're distracted by the Omen, that they won't know where you're, you know, necessarily coming from.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
we need like a verbal.
Yeah. Okay. This right here is the re-peek. So when you peek, when you hear shots in main, sorry.
They're pushing elbow.
Okay, there's 3 sets of people shooting in main. Now, when you get the pick on Reyna, this is probably another position again where you want to take a fight from a different angle again, not instead of re-peek this. Because it's kind of like what I said on the attacking round, right? Whenever you get a pick, the enemies are always looking to trade that area like as soon as they possibly can, you know, and you obviously know this from when you're attacking and all that sort of thing. Like, if your teammate ever dies in a specific spot on the site when you're running out to take the site, you obviously look to trade that spot as quickly as possible. So when you kill this jet, this is another situation where you should probably back off and reposition and try and take this either swing or peek or just hold or fight from a different angle. So, like, because you have a window here where you can reposition after killing this jet, right? Because they're looking to trade you and they know exactly where you were when you killed the jet, you're now putting yourself into a spot where you're probably just going to be swinging into multiple people, which is what ended up happening. You get what I mean? So it's like, what you'd want to actually do in the scenario is get the pick on jet, and then maybe, you know, like, move back up around this side of sight, you know, like, take the peek from this side, or, you know, hold, wait it out, something like that, because, like I said, it's very, very likely that you're just going to end up swinging into, like, 3 different enemies and just end up dying, like, no matter what happens, right? So it's like, you take the 1 for O, like, even in right here, right, it's a 5v2 situation, it's like, you have no reason to actually re-peek.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Omen got a kill in main, like, you're in a really good spot here when you get that pick on jet to just fall back.
No, I don't hear. One's mid.
Cypher cam mid. Cage.
No, I don't hear. One's mid.
Cypher cam mid.
Were you expecting the Cypher to be like where he was? Do you remember?
I didn't hear the cage, which threw me off for
Yeah.
moment.
Because
when I heard it break,
you heard
that's when I was like, oh, wait a second, someone's mid.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting the cage there to not cover the crossfire.
Yeah, I understand.
And I wasn't expecting Gecko to be throwing wingman there either.
Yeah. So, again, like, if we look at the map where Gecko's actually standing, he's not actually, like, even if there was no cage here, you still wouldn't know if he was up here or not, because this is another scenario where it's kind of similar to, was it with the Omen earlier on down in when you're playing post plan on A, like the other half, with where your Gecko's holding here. When this tripwire goes down, even if there's no cage here, you're still not going to know if Cypher's up here because your Gecko's just playing behind a box, you know what I mean? Like, your Gecko's, like, don't get me wrong, Gecko's not making the right play, in this scenario, but just, like, it's for you specifically. This is because, like, obviously in this game, you have to just adapt to whatever's happening, like, in the round, you know, like, whether your teammate's doing the wrong thing, right thing, or whatever, like, you have to adapt to it regardless, right? So, like, because your Gecko's chosen to play behind here for whatever reason, which is not the right play, but we do have information that Gecko is doing this, which means that for our perspective, with that information, we can actually tell that Cypher could potentially be all the way up here once this tripwire goes down, regardless of if there's a cage or not, just because of where we can see your Gecko's playing, right? Like, Gecko's still behind this box,
Down, right.
Like, he's just standing here. He's not even, like, watching it. Like, he's fully just sitting behind the box, which means, obviously, again, you have no vision of this area, you know? So, as soon as he breaks this trip, we're like, okay, the trip's broken. Nobody's watching here, so we don't have vision, which means Cypher can realistically be anywhere in this area, you know? Like, just whether your teammates are doing the right thing, the wrong thing, we still have to adapt to whatever they are actually doing. So just for your future games, obviously, being aware of that information, you know, what what information do we have access to on the map? What are our teammates watching? Based on what our teammates are watching, where could the enemies potentially be? Like, that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
I've heard you shoot.
Bomb's down. I reswing the smoke like an idiot.
Yeah, you're kind of a sitting duck in this scenario.
Yeah, bomb's down. I just didn't want to play further back with the gun I had.
Yeah, you understand. I mean, like, one thing you can't, like, so, it's not really about the range, it's more so about, like, when they come out onto site, obviously they have one here, one up here, like, you can hear it. The only thing here is obviously just sitting in this area. Like, what you can do is you can, delay it a bit. Like, you can, say, for example, sit in the smoke for a little while, and then just, like, swing out with the Stinger, because obviously that's one thing that the Stinger has over the rifles, is the fact that you can run and gun close ranges, like, burst people down, that sort of thing. It's like, but when you run out and then you just sit there, like, yeah, like I said, you're obviously just a sitting duck sort of thing. So it's like, what I would have done in this scenario is just, when you come back in here, because it's very common for people to obviously tap and stuff as well, you know what I mean, like fake plant.
Yeah.
It's like right here, what you'd want to do is kind of just play with the smoke timing a little bit more. So obviously, as you can see, the smoke isn't like gonna clear within the next few seconds because it's, you know, doesn't have the style thing. So it's like you can use the smoke to your advantage more so because and this is why, like, if you watch really high level games, generally when people are against like an eco round, for example, they don't smoke the same way that they would smoke when they're playing against rifle rounds and that sort of thing. And it's for this precise reason, because when you have, like, you know, SMG, shorty, shotguns, like even pistols in some cases, right? It's like having smokes nearby you is really, really advantageous for the person that has the SMG, because like I said, you have that ability to swing, run and gun at close ranges. So it's like, using these smokes to your advantage more with the Stinger would have been really, really helpful in this scenario. So, like, just play around the smoke timing a little bit more, you know, like, just sitting in the smoke, right? Obviously, you've prevented the plant here, which is good, right? Which now, what that means, obviously, for us is that, since Wingman's dead, the next time the spike's planted, there has to be, like, an actual agent on the site when they plant, right? Which gives us the information that when you hear the tap, there's going to be an agent somewhere around here, right? Whether they're faking, they're sticking, whatever. So it's like you can play now knowing that there has to be agents on the site, and then just use the smoke more to your advantage, like play more in the smoke, around the smoke. You know what I mean? Like, you can wait a few seconds and then swing out of it. Like, there's so many things that you can do in the scenario, but running out of the smoke and just sitting here, it's like you're never going to be in a position where you can get a kill. Like, realistically, you're never going to be able to get a kill by sitting in this cutout with a Stinger, just because obviously, like, he's just gonna peek his advantage you every time, you know, like, just swing out on one tap. They like, with a Stinger, you're putting the gun duel heavily in the favor of the person with the rifle, right? Because it's like I said, obviously each gun and gun class has its own, you know, strengths and weaknesses. And like I said to you before, right, the thing, obviously, as you know, right, what the SMGs, the advantage that the SMGs have over rifles is the fact that you can run and gun at close range, you know, swing and that sort of thing. So it's like, you want to try and, based on the guns you have and based on the guns the enemy has, try and like sway the gunfight into your favor as much as you possibly can, which means taking advantage of the pros of the SMG, right? Like the things that the SMG has over the rifles is, like I said, the close range, the run and gun. So you want to try and set yourself up for a gun duel where you're going to be run and gunning, because that's going to be more advantageous against a rifle. Do you kind of get what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Just putting yourself in that situation. Like, don't put yourself in a situation where the person with the rifle has, you know, the advantage, because obviously having a Vandal in itself is already a big enough advantage, so you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're just standing still, because that heavily favors the person with the Vandal even more, right? Whereas if you're just running, gunning, and swinging with the Stinger, you're going to be harder to track, and it's going to be easy for you to be accurate on them, and you're going to put yourself in a position where you can actually get picks with the SMG, you know?